standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari, starting off on an extraordinary note because our two lionesses have managed to keep their buffalo kill safe away from the hyenas last night. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie and I have Dave once again on camera with me this morning, and we're coming to you live from the middle of Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park of South Africa. Not only are we live, we're also interactive, which means you can send through your questions on #SafariLIVE on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@wildearth.tv. It's not so much a sunrise safari this morning as it's just generally getting a bit lighter. As you can see, the cold weather has stayed with us, as has the wind, so we are all dressed for Arctic temperatures because we are South African and therefore incapable of handling the cold. Now, before we get down to the business of talking about our lovely lionesses, I just want to say a very happy birthday to Miss McLennan Smith, Kirsti, who is our director this morning in Final Control, the red-headed goddess who holds the team together and keeps us all functioning and tells us what to do, which, as you can imagine, with a team of characters such as WildEarth, she certainly has her work cut out for her, and she performs her position most admirably. So happy birthday, Kirsti. I hope it's a fantastic day, and I'm looking forward to taking you out on drive this afternoon. And I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing the lovely Kirsti a happy birthday. It's also Rebecca's birthday, isn't it? It is Rebecca's birthday. Rebecca, however, is on leave and presumably celebrating elsewhere. Happy birthday to both of our ladies in Final Control. Right, on to a different conversation topic. We've got the Nkuhuma lionesses. Now, Chris Rogue, you sent through the update that there was a lioness at the Pan this morning at around 4:30 or just after 4:30 in the morning. I don't know that it's one of these two. The reason I say that is there's no tracks leading from this carcass towards the Pan, so it might be one of the other members of the Pride that's come through for a drink. We'll probably go and investigate that a little bit later. One of these lionesses might have walked a different route to the one I expected, down to the Pan. Either way, we've got an exciting morning planned. And I think we've got the same two lionesses, the very pregnant lioness, and then the youngest member of the Nkuhuma Pride. If this is your first time meeting them, this pride consists of 5 lionesses, or usually consists of 5 lionesses. They're a little bit scattered at the moment for a very good reason, I believe, and I think that's largely due to a number of pregnancies amongst the females, and a couple of estrus cycles thrown in as well, so some of them have been off mating with the dominant males in this area. The others have been caring for brand new cubs. And that's why our ladies are a bit split up for now, which is why I commented on the fact that I'm glad that they managed to keep their buffalo kill away from the hyenas. 2 lionesses make a good team. Obviously they made a good enough team to take down a smallish buffalo, but warding off a clan of hyenas is a different story. And not too long ago, Dave and myself watched as they were chased off a kill that they had made by about, probably, I think we counted 14 different hyenas that had banded together. And I was a little bit concerned that during the night that would be the case today. But they've managed to keep that safe. So, while we try to figure out a good position to view our lions through the guarri bushes, let's go across to the absolutely eloquent and outstandingly wonderful James Henry, find out what he's up to.
I don't know what I did to deserve a compliment like that, everybody. Very good morning to all of you. I hope that you are happy and warm wherever you are. Bryan and I are not very warm, but we are very happy. Hello, Bryan.
Hello, James.
There is your thumb.
It is.
Now, we've come into this area, everybody. My name's James, by the way. and I'm none of the things that Jamie described me as. We came here to see if Karula was here. I don't see the kill still in the tree there. She killed a duiker yesterday. It was in that tree over there, the green bit. Just listen carefully. I thought I might have heard some chewing. I can certainly smell death. Anyway, we think that they were probably going to finish it sometime yesterday. Those little 5-month-old cubs are now very hungry just about all the time. Now, whether she would have stashed them there and then moved off, or they all moved off together, I don't know. We'll have a brief squiz around here, see what we can find, and then we'll decide from there as to what to do. But very nice to start off the drive with some lions. Now, everybody, I would like you to take it upon yourselves to make sure that during the course of today's drive, #SafariLIVE, questions@wildearth.tv, you send a very happy birthday to Kirsten McLennan-Smith, the fiery redhead who is sitting in the final control directing us at the moment. This will result in a much more peaceful day for all of us around camp. So if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Thanks so much. Right, we're just going to drive around here a little bit. First thing we're going to do is pop our heads over the top there, not on foot, because if there is a leopardess there in the drainage line with her 2 cubs and you pop your head over the top, well, it's not ideal really. Kirsten McLennan-Smith's rage looked like a mere mouse getting a little upset. So we'll just pop our little heads over the top here. Brian, you don't see any leopards, do you?
Not currently.
Because the last time we were in a position like this, you did see a leopard. You spotted her.
I did.
But now, no. Okay, so what we'll do now is just drive a little bit down there and see if she hasn't deposited the cubs somewhere here and then gone off to... She seems to want some alone time every so often. I think it's quite amusing. And, well, why shouldn't she have some alone time? She goes off, she leaves the cubs, she goes off and she sits on her own for a while. She does a little bit of hunting, and then she comes back. And the last time I saw George and Charlotte around here, the cubs, they were on their own. And one of them was in that tree over there. That big one you can see now coming into your frame. So let's just ease through here. Look in the tops of the trees for a dangling George tail, or a shining Charlotte eye. I made that up now. I didn't even practice that one, Brian. Thank you. It's always good to build each other up, I feel. Yes. Someone came around here last night. Okay, we're just going to look around a little bit, stare into the trees. Retrieve the binoculars, have a look-see. I don't see any leopards. Huh? I do see some skin though. Brian, you see that bit of red there? I'm just going to ease forward a bit. If you look just sort of to the left-hand side of the trunk of this big tree, there seems to be some skin or something on the ground there, basically between the yellow leaves and the trunk of the tree, the other side of the dam, of the drainage. Yes, I'm positioned you badly. There. You see that bit there on the, yeah, just up. Yeah. Zoom in there. Can you see that, what I'm looking at there? Down a little? Is that plant or is it skin? Yes. Everyone thinks it's a plant. It's not skin. Okay. I thought maybe the duiker skin had been left there. All right, I think let's go back to the lions, find out what they're doing. I'm going to fossick about here a little bit, and then I'll hopefully have a direction as to where they've gone by the time I see you next.
While James goes off in search of one of our favourite big cats, Dave and myself have managed to navigate the guari bushes and find ourselves a slightly better position in which to view our beautiful lionesses. There's one that's obviously obscured behind the bushes. She's a little bit nervous, and I think that's a combination of the wind, maybe hyenas plaguing them all night, and the fact that every time she tries to feed off the buffalo carcass, she gets beaten up by the older female, who at this point, given I think the sort of stage of the pregnancy that she's at, is feeling somewhat peckish, making sure that she gets the lion's share of their buffalo. And hello to George, and welcome to the sunrise safari. While we watch our lions feast, you were wondering about the end products of their digestive process, and it's not a silly question at all, George. In fact, I have to tell you that there are very few silly questions out here. It's a sort of a myth that there is such a thing as a silly question. You wanted to know if they bury their scat in the same way that house cats do. Sometimes, but very, very seldom. So they don't really need to obscure their scent or be subtle at all. They're pretty much the dominant cats in this area. Well, they are. They're the apex predator. So hiding stuff away, hiding their scent away, isn't really necessary. Sometimes, if they're near a kill, they might scrape some sand over it. Oh, there we go. Is that lioness still growling at her? I think she might be. So, George, if they happen to defecate near a kill, sometimes they scrape it over, and I think that's more just so that they don't lie in it while they're feeding. And it certainly helps when you're driving around, because you don't want to drive over lion scat, that I can promise you. Other than that, they just defecate wherever they want, and they don't generally cover it up. I think our sub-adult female, oh no, she's not a sub-adult anymore. Our young female is trying the same technique she did yesterday, which is to sidle closer, inch by inch, trying to pretend that she is not actually interested in feeding, she's just there, and then subtly putting her snout forward. Because even while we're sitting here, and you probably couldn't hear it over the sound of the wind, there were some low rumbling growls. And good morning to Ridge, watching all the way in London. I've just come back from London, Ridge, in the last couple of weeks. Absolutely extraordinary situation happening there at the moment. Bridge with a B. You wanted to know what the difference in lifespan is between a lioness and a lion. Well, as you can imagine, a lion versus a lioness, the males have a very tough existence, and almost invariably they end up in some kind of conflict with other males, which is slightly rarer in the case of a lioness. So on average, a male lion lives between 10 to 12 years, depending on the area that you're in. They don't tend to get to sort of reach their dotage, and that's just because chances are they're going to be killed by another male. The females have a slightly longer life expectancy, anywhere from 13 to about 16. Again, it's area dependent. It depends on so many different factors, from food availability right through to hyena dynamics, lion concentration. But that's your average lifespan. I have heard stories of lionesses living right up to 20, but that's a very unusual situation, and it's almost invariably in what's known as a closed system, which would not be where we are, but in an area that is fenced in. So the dynamics are slightly more man-controlled or man-managed. So that's an unusual scenario. For the most part, our lionesses and lions have rather short lifespans. By the way, they keep looking off to the northeast of us. I wonder if there's not elephants around. Last night, Dave and myself had something of a surprise when I turned around and found that the lioness had come bolting towards the car, away from a herd of elephants that strolled through. Elephants are not a huge fan of lions. Look at that. I said we were not going to get a sunrise. We are actually getting a sunrise, of sorts. actually looking like it might shape up to be incredibly pretty. What a beautiful way to start off our day. Just the trails of clouds moving through the sky. I wonder if that means we've reached the end of our very short-lived cold front. Oh. And look at that. While we're looking at the sunset, we've also got a bird of prey hanging out in the dead tree. It's one of the eagle family. It's hard to tell in this sort of silhouetted light. My guess would be that it might be that tawny eagle that was around yesterday being dive-bombed by... What is it being dive-bombed by? Lapwings. It was being chased away by lapwings. Might be attracted by the prospect of any scraps from this kill. And it's not just vultures in terms of the bird world that will scavenge off carcasses, and a lot of the eagle family will as well. Actually, looking at the size, it might actually be a snake eagle. We'll go and investigate when the light gets a little bit clearer. But for now, we will enjoy the beautiful sunrise and this stunning scene playing out in front of us. And we'll enjoy the most time that we can with these lionesses, because there will be other people wanting to make their way in at some point to the sighting. What I mean by that, for those of you who are new, is that only 3 vehicles in a time can watch the animals here. And while we watch the animals gorge themselves, as all predators do, Sarah, watching in Australia, welcome to our wonderful live safaris. He wanted to know how much on average a lion will eat. They'll gorge themselves to the point that probably could consume about... It depends obviously on the lioness versus the male lion, but you could be looking at up to 100 or so pounds of meat, even more in the case of a male lion. They've got this incredible ability to distend their bellies and their stomachs to make space for as much food as possible, which makes total sense, because you never know when your next meal is coming from or when you're going to lose your meal. So you try and fit in as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Although for the moment, these lionesses have a leisurely meal for now. Good morning to William, while we watch the antics of our young lioness, who is now, I know you can't really see behind the tree, but she's sort of touching the buffalo carcass, as if to say, I wouldn't mind having some of that, but I know I'm not going to get any. William wants to know, while we wait to see if she does get to feed, whether or not a pregnant lioness would become more protective over a kill, because they know that they need more food, or when they become closer to their full term. I think they do. I think this is... lions are always a bit aggressive around a kill. They're always very selfish around a kill. Maybe selfish is the wrong word, but it's about survival of the fittest, so there's no real share and share alike. Everybody fights for their own peace. But I think, yes, I think she is slightly more aggressive due to her pregnancy, slightly more defensive over it, and apparently slightly more ravenous. She's pretty much been eating solidly since we saw her yesterday. She's also more nervous, interestingly enough. She was the first to dash away when the elephants came through. The younger lioness stayed and took advantage of her absence. But I think that's also because she knows that she's not quite as agile and as fast as she would normally be. But don't you think these animals are incredible? The fact that they can be heavily pregnant and hunt right up until the point that they have their cubs, and then go straight back to hunting afterwards. I mean, antelope are extraordinary, but imagine trying to chase down and catch a buffalo with several babies inside of you, with your stomach sort of heavy and flapping everywhere, and somehow not manage to injure the cubs either, internally. They really are quite extraordinary creatures. The young lioness, I'm going to have to try and move for you in a moment because the young lioness has now rolled over onto her back and is trying to find a nice safe spot for her paw in the guarri bush. Basically cuddling the tree. I'll reposition in a moment to get you a view. For now, let's just stay where we are, so I'll make sure that she's nice and relaxed. Oh. Nope, that wasn't terribly comfortable either. I'll go back to resting my head on the buffalo. While we do a little bit of a shuffle around, let's head over to James and find out how his search for Karula is going.
Well, not very well, everybody. She seems to have headed south into this block here, but the difficulty with that is that it's right on the boundary. So unless she's murdered something in this block during the night, I suspect quite strongly that she's headed to the south of the reserve, but we will go and find out. In the meantime, there is a post-apocalyptic sunrise occurring, which I think you've looked at with Jamie, but there's no reason I shouldn't show it to you too. There it is. It's rather pretty. Just listening there. No, it's not an alarm call. I heard a bird shouting. No, it is Impala calling. No, it's not. It's a bird. Sorry, everybody. My ears are still waking up. The bird might be shouting at a leopard, but I'm not sure. Otherwise, the dawn chorus, very quiet, as you can hear. That is not unusual for a windy, blustery morning like this. The post-apocalyptic sunrise. You can hear just one or two battises in the background. And that other bird going psh, psh. I don't know what that is. It's quite interesting. Anyway, let's go around the corner and see if her tracks cross the road, and then we can decide what to do from there. The other thing to think about, of course, is that we did see Shadow yesterday. She seemed to be perhaps going to fetch her little one to go to a kill. So we'll go and have a look around there if we don't get any luck with Karula, the queen. And if you do happen to have stumbled across this broadcast by mistake, Karula is our 12-year-old queen. Sharon, you say when a mother leopard leaves her cubs, do they have to dodge predators? Well, they don't so much dodge them as climb up into trees to get away from them. And the only predator that can then get them inside a tree like that would be a very industrious lion, but highly unlikely that it would be able to climb into a tree with sufficient skill to be able to get a baby leopard. And then an unrelated male leopard would be able to, I suppose, retrieve them from a tree. But because they are well and firmly within their suspected father's territory, that isn't really something that's likely to happen. So Sharon, they would have to certainly climb a tree to get away from hyenas and possibly lions, but that should keep them pretty safe. It was very cold this morning, 13 degrees apparently, 53 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is nonsense. Bryan and I both think it's at least minus 46, don't we?
At least.
Yes, at least minus 46. It's quite cold. And in the background you can hear the whistling call, perhaps, of the grey hornbill. It's deeply mournful. Let's just check quickly here. I suspect the tracks are going to come out in about 100 meters from here, going that way. Now, we cannot go to the left of us here. For those of you who do not understand why that should be the case, given that there is no obvious barrier, but there is a barrier, and it is a legal barrier, of course, and we do know that human property laws are sometimes some of the most stringent that they happen to be. So you're not allowed to go crossing over boundaries that aren't onto your property. And the Sabi sand is a collection of private farms owned by a number of different landowners, and they've got various complicated traversing agreements between each other. And for us, we're not allowed to go down there. That's called Hofmann's or Little Gowrie. I forget which exactly. I think it's Little Gowrie. No tracks of her coming across yet, so maybe she's still in this block. That would be quite nice to discover. We might see her hanging in a tree right now. Keep a lookout, Bryan. Keep a lookout, everybody. There is a duiker running at high speed. I think the duiker's gone. Alright, let's quickly nip across to Jamie. I'm going to just quickly scour this road, and I'll keep you posted as to what happens.
Contrary to all expectations, the sunrise is absolutely beautiful. A really nice way to start off the morning. One of the best aspects of winter is actually because of the amount of dust and a couple of fires here and there, although there's not much to burn at this point, but the fires and the dust during the winter period is actually what gives us the most spectacular sunrises and sunsets, because obviously only the red and the orange waves of light actually make it through the haziness of the atmosphere. So if you're looking for the best time to look at sunrises and sunsets in Africa, I would strongly advise in the Lowveld coming through during winter, where you will be treated to spectacles that only Africa can offer. In the meantime, our pregnant lady is still thinking about having more food. I think she is getting to the point, though, where she's kind of full. There's something almost half-hearted about the way that she is scraping at the bones, and every now and then she stops to pant. Now, unlike us, feeling the morning chill, the lions will be very warm at this stage. It's partly because they have such full stomachs, and a lot of the digestion of the meat causes an extreme amount of heat to be released around their digestive system. So lions get very, very warm when they feed off the buffalo, or when they feed off anything, which I'm slightly jealous of at this point, because we've definitely got the chilly winds still blowing through. Okay, well, Aubrey has moved off, which means that we can come and steal his spot, I think. We've had a lovely view from this side. Now we're going to see if we can't approach from a different angle and get a nice... Oh my goodness, I'm going to poke my eye out on that. Let's pop that over there. That was quite terrifying. Stay there. That was my antenna for final control, to be able to talk to me at great distances. Fortunately, we are not at a great distance, so I can still hear them even with it not being poised to poke my eye out. Stay there, please. As we reposition, good morning to Michael, who's wondering about when was the last time all 5 of the Birmingham boys were seen with the lionesses, and will they spend more time with them once the cubs are born. Actually, Michael, I probably better poised to answer that question by asking some of the viewers when the last time was that we even saw all 5 Birmingham boys together. Now, unfortunately, Michael, I'm not sure if you've heard, but one of the Birmingham angry elephants, one of the Birmingham boys has actually died. We think due to an injury related to hunting something, maybe buffalo. Something caused him a little bit of distress, and eventually he died of a punctured lung, we suppose. We'll never really truly know exactly what occurred. I'll stop here for now. I've got a view of them while I answer Michael's question. The Nkuhumas are very scattered, the Birmingham boys are very scattered. I don't think that that's going to change when the cubs are born. We definitely will see them associating with the cubs, but I think the Birmingham boys, with the enormous territory that they have acquired, now need to do some serious patrolling in a way that involves splitting up into different groups. They've established themselves, they used the force of their numbers, and they've now reached a, what would we call it, a new phase of their dominance over this area. It's a different time for them. I don't think that the presence of cubs will make that much of a difference, to be 100% honest with you. Right, madam, our pregnant lady. I wonder how close she is to giving birth and where she's going to decide to do it. You can see it's not just a full belly that tells us that she's pregnant. Obviously she's eaten a huge meal, so she's very round. But if you have a look towards her back legs, around that darkened patch that is her nipple, you can see the bulge is not uniform. I wouldn't call it cub-shaped, but it definitely isn't a full stomach-shaped either. And that's what tells us that she is still heavily pregnant. I really can't wait to have cubs. I'm really, really keeping my fingers crossed she's going to have them somewhere here. And while we discuss the dynamics of feeding and the possibility of new cubs, Anthony was wondering, would a male lion allow a pregnant female to eat the carcass without sort of taking most of it for himself? The answer is no, unfortunately not. Male lions play an extraordinary role in a pride's life. They're very, very important in terms of protecting them and keeping them safe from other male lions. They are not, however, geared towards gentle, caring natures and looking after their pregnant females. A male lion would have absolutely no problem if he came in now, smacking her about, hitting her with his paws, hurting her, and chasing her off the buffalo carcass and taking it for himself, regardless of whether or not she is pregnant. Hey, there we go, our young lioness has managed to get a spot feeding, and since she's up there now, trying to work out what our best angle's going to be. I think one more reposition and then we'll have it perfect. And the young lioness has relaxed a lot. We can make our way in. Sorry for those of you for whom this is a little bit gory. I think we sometimes get so used to it that we forget about the fact that it might be turning some people's stomachs. The lionesses, of course, are not fazed at all. A girl. All right. While the pregnant debates eating more, we've got a nice opportunity to view her teeth, or we will, when she pulls her nose out. And Angie kind of wanted to know, or Angie from Wisconsin wanted to know, how long a lion's teeth are, a male versus female comparison. Now, Angie, it's gone back to its original place of origin, but we did actually have a lion skull in the tent with James. It came from Brent. It has now been returned to Brent. There's our young lioness. So the difference is not enormous, actually. Now, a lion's tooth, what's incredible about it is the canine, the root system that holds it into their jaw is actually longer and bigger than the tooth itself. So a male lion's tooth is probably about 2.5 inches in length, the part that sticks out of their mouth. The entire tooth is probably about the size of my hand, or close to the size of my length of my hand, including the root system. And a female's teeth is just slightly proportionately smaller. So you're looking probably at about 1.5 to 2 inches as opposed to 2.5. It's not a huge difference, but a male lion's head versus a female lion's head, there's a male lion can be a good 200 pounds larger, so they are just proportionately bigger. Considerable sexual dimorphism there. There's lots of meat still. And as the lionesses search for the best possible place to have their breakfast, let's go over to James, who's found an antelope.
Look at that top-class sighting, everybody. Let me move forward. It was in the open. It's a bull nyala, and he's sitting watching the sunrise, and I think his breakfast is infinitely nicer than that raw, smelly buffalo meat being eaten by the lionesses. He is eating, well, I'm not sure that it's that much nicer. He's eating Strychnos madagascarensis, the world's most unpleasant tree. I say that simply because it grows so scraggly in this area. It's so interesting how they're eating it now. I can't remember ever seeing it being eaten by animals before this year, this trying, drought-riddled year. Lovely markings all over his face. I was reading a little bit earlier today about various aspects of human evolution, and while the particular author I'm reading I don't think is very good, neither here nor there, you know, we always look at these adaptations like those white marks under the eyes or those white spots next to the nose and the stripes and the white bit on the back, the mantle there, and we say, well, what evolutionary advantage did it confer on the animal? And there are various schools of thought around this, and some of them say, well, you know, not everything is necessarily an evolutionary advantage. Some is a random genetic mutation that has had no effect on the animal, and it's just kind of survived. I'm personally of the opinion that an animal that has been evolving for as long as a nyala has, you'll find that there are very, very few traits that will survive unless they do confer some kind of evolutionary advantage. So what those three funny little dots could be there under the eye, I don't know. Maybe you have an idea. Just going to quickly talk to Tax on the radio. Go, Tax. Jamie, ile tingalin. Tikwi. Sorry, just hold on 1 second. Tikwi? Okay, go. Mundilega aratus. Ndavuya lele tanyan. Apparently, Taxon has found a male and a female lion sitting just near Mvubu Road, right next to the dam. So that's very exciting. Okay, copy. Thanks, Tax. I might make my way there. We're fossicking around on Arathusa at the moment, everybody, and what we're looking for is just the animals that made the consternation yesterday amongst the kudu, and they were shouting around about the airstrip. So we were thinking about heading that way and see if we couldn't find Shadow and maybe her cub. But then we'll go back towards those lions. So Chris Rogue, you said that you saw a female lion at the dam cam earlier this morning, and I'm sure it was that one that Taxon's just found. So I don't know what you guys think. What do you think those three funny little spots underneath the Nyala's eye could possibly mean? Or what evolutionary advantage it could confer on an animal like this Nyala? Maybe it's just pretty. What do you think, Bryan?
I really don't know.
I think it's really difficult to say. It's so complicated. And of course, if you actually really want to find the truth, you have to search through this sort of melee of noise, of people coming up with wild theories, which has to happen, of course. Some of them eventually will prove to be true, but the vast majority of theories around, I think, biology and weather and everything, every aspect of life, the vast majority of the information created is probably utter nonsense. And it's searching through it and finding the truth is the difficulty. Of course, none of that makes any difference to the Nyala. He's just going to get on with his life, eat his strychnos, go and lie in the shade, ruminate, and try and find a lady later on, which I think is a much more simple idea than writing reams and reams of PhDs and putting them in university halls for no one to read. Don't you, Bryan? Yes, indeed. Okay, on we go. So we're on Arathusa. That male and female lion have been found right next to Vuyatela camp. I think it's going to be worth us just driving down here, having a look and see if we can't find something that made those kudu shout. I was hoping it might be Shadow and her cub from yesterday. So let's do that, and then we'll go back towards that male and female lion at Djuma. In the meantime, Jamie is still with her lionesses and their beefy breakfast.
A beefy breakfast indeed, and it seems as though they've reached a quite happy truce. It's share and share alike at this point, and what an exciting way to start off a Sunday morning, but with lions everywhere. I'm sure James is making his way towards the pair that is on Mvubu Road, and Chris, and to all of you that sent us the update about the lioness at the dam, I think it's relatively safe to say that that's her that they've just found. There we go, we've got a nice view of the teeth there. We were talking about it earlier and just how long they really are. About 2 inches is probably a reasonable estimate just for the canine teeth alone. Although I have to tell you that the molars that she's using at the back there, the carnassial, what's known as the carnassial shear, oh goodness, let's try that all again, carnassial shear. I started sort of spoonerizing the letters there. Those molars are enormous. They're almost actually the length of the canine teeth. Not quite. Obviously, they serve a different purpose. And what I was talking about with the root system of the canine teeth applies equally to those molars, if not even more so. Those roots are incredibly thick and strong, which makes sense because they use those molars for this exact purpose, crunching through on bone and stripping the meat away. Almost like a pair of scissors is the way that shear works. And that's what she's doing there. Keeping her teeth strong and clean. Melissa, while we watch her negotiate what looks like what was the top part of the hip bone, the hip joint, you're wondering how much longer they will feed on this kill. I think they'll be here until tonight. They may be here by tomorrow morning, but I have my doubts about that. There's still lots of meat left. But I'm not entirely sure that it's going to last them all the way through until tomorrow. If it stays just the two of them, there's a chance. If they are joined by, for example, that pair at Mvubu Road, then things change dramatically and probably the rest of the buffalo carcass will be gone by this afternoon or this evening. But if they stay just the two of them and they manage to keep it safe from the hyena, they might be here tomorrow morning. It remains to be seen. They might also just decide that there's not much left. They've still got a whole day of feeding, and as you can see, it's pretty much a consistent thing at a buffalo, particularly on a cool day. So they don't need to go and lie and cool off in the shade. They can just munch their way through what's left. At the moment, they've cleaned off the back quarters. They're now on the shoulders and the ribs. The legs don't really have much meat. The neck might have a little bit of meat, but they're not going to bother too much with the legs and the face. The typical standard morning feeding sounds, bones crunching and tearing. Now, although we think of hyenas as being extraordinary bone eaters, which of course they are, even more so than the lions, a lion does have a tremendous bite force and crushing ability with those molars that we were talking about before. Very, very powerful, capable of consuming, and they consume a lot of the smaller bones in a kill like this, and the softer bones And that being said, I was reading a really interesting article for those of you who are interested in comparing the big cats from around the world in terms of bite pressure. So obviously a tiger and a lion top up that scale because they're the biggest of the big cats. But apparently a jaguar, we're looking at South America and up just into the southern parts of the States. Apparently a jaguar has proportionately the most powerful bite pressure or bite force of any animal. Sorry, let's just let her go forward. I'm always a little bit on tenterhooks with pregnant ladies across the board in general, but I certainly, oh, yeah, pregnancy bladder. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Find a nice place to lie down. Oh. Deep groaning sigh and a gentle waft of lion gas that's just flowed over Dave and myself, which is always a pleasant surprise first thing in the morning. So sorry, jaguar, not the strongest of any animal, the strongest bite force of any cat, pound for pound, and that's come apparently from evolving to crack open the shells of turtles or the other chelonians that they can find. It is incredible to think that they've got that kind of power in their mouths. While we watch our lions eat what James described as their beefy breakfast, Justin would like to know whether or not a lion would enjoy cooked meat as much as they enjoy raw meat. Yes, absolutely. But before we chat too much about that, James has got an interesting bird.
There are two interesting things going on here. Well, the first is, of course, that there's a ground scraper thrush there, two of them, one far and the other quite close. There it is. Now, the ground scraper thrush for some of you will be a new bird for the bird list, I imagine. They're not very common here. Now, Bryan, you call them the cowbird. Could you explain that?
It looks like a cow.
Apparently, to Bryan, that looks like a cow. Right, good. And then chasing that little ground scraper thrush as it scrapes along the ground is a crowned lapwing, which is going quack, quack, quack. Looking very cold on this blustery morning. But you can see why it's called a crowned lapwing. And you probably definitely have that one on your bird list. Just notice quickly how it doesn't have a back toe. You see that? You may just be able to make out there that it doesn't have a back toe. It's only got 3 front-facing toes, and that is because it is not a perching bird. It is a coursing bird. It runs after its prey, which are normally ants or termites or things on the ground. You see that? That's really cool. We often talk about that, but we seldom are able to see it in such glorious detail as we are on this and Arethusa International Airstrip. Let's go and have one more look at the cowbird there. What I want to do while Bryan finds you the Friesland is just play you the call, because it's got quite a pretty call. Stand by one. Ta-ta. Right, here we go. Are you ready? Let me turn it up. Volume. Oh dear. Here we go. I think it's such a pretty call. I'm just going to stop it. It's such a pretty call, but I don't want... Oh, there he's calling. See? That's not me, that's him. I always feel a little bad doing that, because we kind of conned him into thinking there's another one here, which there isn't, of course. And And all I wanted to do was show you what it sounded like, and now I've created great consternation. He's convinced there are invisible ground scraper thrushes all over the place here. They're two together now, Brian. They're behind that one, I think. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Aren't they lovely? That is such a pretty call. I'm not actually that sorry that I've made him pull. Now we're looking for little insects and things to eat. And earthworms, apparently. They're going to struggle to find earthworms on the airstrip, don't you think, Brian?
A
It'll be
little
difficult. They might hurt their beaks, I feel. I'm just quickly going to check what else they eat. Such a lovely call. I can hear some elephants off there going. Ah, good. Mary Ellen, you say this is a new bird for you, and you have now a bird list of an astonishing 235. I think that's really impressive. Runs. Yeah, it normally eats termites, harvested termites. Also alates, mole crickets, grubs, dipteran flies, grasshoppers, beetles, spiders, isopods and slugs. Basically, it'll eat anything that isn't a mammal, or maybe a reptile. And when he thinks he's been spotted, of course, he just flips around and shows you his rather well camouflaged back. Very nice, Brian.
Very nice.
Yes, look, it's not Shadow and Zara, but it's not bad. Good. On we go. We're going to continue down over this way and see if we don't get some luck. Nothing else going on Arethusa this morning. I think there are a few sightings going on in Elephant Plains to the west of us, but we're not allowed to go there, so we're on our own here on Arethusa, which is always quite nice. All right, let's go back to the lions.
Your timing is absolutely perfect because the pregnant lioness has moved off to lie down and something's caught her attention. I'm not 100% sure what it may be, but she looks unsettled and very, very alert. I wonder if it's not a hyena that are coming to investigate. I did hear their contact whooping call earlier. What have you seen, girl? See it in her body language, those ears forward facing, and she's shifted off her side onto her belly so that she's poised to move as quickly as possible. Okay, relaxing a little bit. And she could also just be on edge because it's windy and she is very pregnant, and as we spoke about earlier, not as agile as she might otherwise be. Yep, they're coming. They're coming, that's what she's looking at. Okay, so Henry's just told us that there's a group of hyena a little bit to the north of where the kill is. So that's exactly what she's looking at. Okay, Andrew's going to go that way. Copy that, thanks Henry. I'm going to stand by here. Right. We might see some interesting interaction. I wonder how many a whole load of is. A whole load of hyena. How many do we suppose that may be? Dave? 4? 5? Oops, sorry. Put the ridiculous pom-pom in your frame while I'm trying to look for hyena. Justin, I'm sorry, what were we talking about again? I've already got completely distracted by the hyena. Oh yes, that's what it was. Cooked and raw meat. Would they enjoy cooked meat? Yes, I don't think they'd be terribly fussy. I certainly don't think they'd turn their nose up at a well-done steak, or even a rare steak. Perhaps they have preferences, I doubt it though. I don't think they're terribly fussy. I often wonder, Justin, about animals' taste buds and if they have certain preferences. Because, I mean, when you see some of the meat that these lions eat, when it's green in colour and slimy and crawling with maggots, you do have to admire them for their strength of their stomachs. And when we can barely stand the smell, of course, they're geared towards a completely different set of sensory inputs, and it doesn't bother them at all. But I do wonder, do they prefer some food over others? And that applies to all of the animals. Is it purely nutritional? Does it taste better if it's got more nutritional value? I'm not 100% sure. Just listening to the Game Drive channel, guys. Sorry, we may have to leave the sighting. I'm hoping we can stay here until the interaction between the lions and the hyenas has played out. Let's just wait and see. For the moment, it's two separate sightings. I'm trying to remember what the rule is in terms of sitting still versus a moving sighting that then collide, and which vehicles have to leave and which have to stay. I think it's us that would have to leave, and we have been here the longest. She's relaxed again. Obviously, the female that's feeding couldn't give, isn't concerned at all about the fact that the hyenas are around, or she's trying to munch her way through as much of the kill as she can. And I think the hyenas have been steadily recruiting, adding to their numbers, and might be advancing, and I wonder who will be the first to arrive. Last night while we were sitting here, one lone hyena came wandering through and tried to do a big loop around the lionesses and promptly encountered the pregnant female. We couldn't see what was happening, but we did hear the growl and then the hyena's frightened yip as it dashed away. But they will have, if the hyena clan bands together, they definitely have the strength of numbers. One thing I will say is that I don't think the pregnant female is going to fight terribly hard to keep this carcass safe. I think she's going to choose discretion over valor in this case. Andrew's just returning from where he went to investigate the hyena, so we might be able to hear from him exactly how many there are and how far away they are. So while I have a quick chat with Andrew, let's go over to a different type of antelope with James.
The sun, unfortunately, everyone, has just gone behind a cloud, but these impala have been bathed in the most beautiful light, and off behind them to the west you can see the foothills of the Drakensberg Mountains, and even you can also see, I don't know if you can see in the background there, Brian, there's that kopje. We're just going to show you that sort of rocky outcrop, and it's shining. Just if you zoom right in, that's it. Look at that. Now that's on Londolozi, everybody, and I've spent many, many hours sitting on top of that rocky outcrop, enjoying the view back this way and out towards the mountains. It's just very stunning how the sun has broken through and it's touching parts of the earth, and other parts, like the one we're sitting in now, not so much. Now the light's back on those impala. Isn't that lovely? And it's a huge herd. Brian, how many? About 40 of them?
At least.
Maybe. They are the most beautiful animals. We don't give them nearly enough credit, I don't think. Ah, stunning. Just so pretty. They're all very peacefully grazing. They'll do a bit of browsing today. It's got a real nice Sunday morning feel about it. Justin, nice question from you. You say, are they still in their rutting season? No, Justin, they're not. They're absolutely not in the rutting season. Some of the males are still rutting a little bit, but it's a bit stupid of them to be rutting. The females that are going to be pregnant are pregnant now, and so they won't be rutting anymore. And they've finished fighting with each other. There's no real point for them to be fighting now. I just think this is too beautiful. All the detail in the trees behind and that changing colours of the vegetation. Magnificent, Bryan, magnificent.
Too beautiful.
We are very lucky to say that this is what we do for a living. It's tough working on a Sunday, you know, everybody. When this is what you have to do, stare at beautiful scenery all day long. You can hear the wind howling away. It's coming from the south now, and Bryan reckons that there's going to be, you reckon, Arctic air predicted to come through here.
Oh.
Certainly what it feels like.
Yeah.
Antarctic, sorry. Beautiful. No luck with shadow, I'm afraid. But we're still having a little squiz around here, and we might be lucky. We'll see what else we can find on the way. Hello, Marianne. You're in Texas, and you say that you were watching that Nyala with us, and you reckon that those white dots underneath the ears have got something to do with visual enhancement. Marianne, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I don't know if you're right or not, but that certainly could be something like that. I think definitely the chevrons under the eyes, those white chevrons, could easily be reflectors into the eyes in the same way that lions have those very obvious white undersides to their eyes. And that helps apparently to reflect light into their eyes during the evening. So that could well be the case with the Nyala as well, especially when, as they live they live in thick bush, and so they're generally going to be living in the dark or in light impaired conditions. So it could well be possible. Thank you for that, Marianne. That's how we learn. Thinking together. And I can hear, just in the background, a golden-breasted bunting calling, going zzz, zzz. We won't see it, but it's got a lovely Sunday morning feel about it. I don't know why it feels like that. I guess it's psychological, because I'm used to Sunday mornings feeling like this. Yes, HK, you asked the question, isn't Londolozi where the Matimbas are? They are indeed. Possibly not on that copy, but they're around that area, yeah. So that's, I mean, I thought that was due west of us. I suppose it is due west of us. Londolozi is west and to the south of us, and that's pretty much in the western sector of Londolozi. If that's, I mean, is that the right copy? Must be the right copy. I'm sure it is, because I don't know of any others that size around here. It's called Impala. Isn't that a nice name? And then on that same line of koppies, you will find Ulusaba. And there's a whole line of them that runs along from the mountains all the way up into the Kruger, into here. And I think what it was, I'm guessing here, but maybe the more geologically minded of you will be able to tell me if I'm talking nonsense or not. What happened was, I think that the earth must have split along a line there, and bubbles of granite. You can imagine... if you imagine a crust on a pudding, if you like, if you imagine a cut and the things bubbling up out of that sort of fissure, if you like, and then solidifying, and I think that's what happened there. That's granite bubbles that have come out of the surface of the earth many millions of years ago, and they've solidified into these amazing rocky outcrops that form this very straight line all the way to the mountains. Righty, oh, the hyenas have arrived with the lions.
There we go. Just a quick view of one of our hyena gathering up the courage to go and challenge the lions for their kill. And unfortunately we've had to leave the lions. There are 3 vehicles that are there, and we're going to have to move a bit further off, so we can't stay with this hyena because we're still within the sight of the kill. We don't want to add additional pressure. There's another hyena off to our left. I'm going to go forward a bit so you can see. But unfortunately we can't stick around because otherwise there's just a little bit too much vehicle pressure. Nervous still? I don't think any... Where? No, I saw a hyena. I promise you I saw a hyena. Dave, I saw a hyena. Thank you. Your vote of confidence is much appreciated. Gone. Okay, there was a hyena there. Apparently there's about 7 of them trotting up and down here, gathering up the courage. There's one there, I think. Gathering up the nerve to go and make a break for it. Yes, there's 2 sleeping there. Let's go slightly off the road here. Go and investigate who we've got. Whoopsie. Okay, we're far enough away now that this is okay. We're not still part of the other sighting. I don't want to go too far, but I just want to show you where they are. They're sleeping all in a little pile, a little bundle of hyenas. There's some more off to the right. Let's just go a little bit further forward, see who we have. What an awesome morning. My suspicion is that they haven't yet managed to get all of the females together, because they need their size and the weight advantage of the females to... Oh, there we go, we've got one of them. We've got 2 of them. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4 hyenas, all bundled up, waiting for the opportunity to go and tackle those lions. Very cool. What a nice surprise. Now, if they could just tell us where they've moved their den site to, that would also be incredibly convenient. Let's see if we can work out who we've got. It's a bit tricky, given their current sleeping position. Is that not pretty? She's slightly darker in colour. It doesn't have any nicks on her ears. I think that might be pretty. It's a bit hard to tell. Pretty, for those of you who are unfamiliar with our hyena clan, we have given all of our, or at least most of our hyenas, names to help us keep track of them. And Chris Rogue tells me that the first one that we saw was Riven, one of the males of the clan. He definitely had that posture. He looked as though he had his tail all tucked under him. Looked as though he'd been bitten a few times on the bottom recently. But thank you, Chris. That's wonderful to get that little piece of information. Now we can start to work out who else we've got here. Can we go... Yes, let's have a look at you. You're a little bit tricky. It's difficult to tell at this angle. I think that's pretty. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's entirely possible I am, because she's not standing up, and they're not all that easy to identify when they are curled up like that. The one at the back there, Dave, can you see it, or is that tree in the way? I'm just trying to work out if that's the female with the big scar on her back. Yes. No, it's not. It's just the way that her fur was tucked around her, or him. Okay. Well, for those of you at home, we are hyena experts if you want to attempt to identify from the view that we've got. But we know that we've got at least 7 hyena wandering about, or at least I've seen 6. One I promise you existed, but I couldn't get on camera because it vanished. We've got the 4 sleeping here, and then Riven thinking about sneaking a bit closer to those lionesses. So, 6 to 7 hyena against 2 lionesses. And that's exactly what I'm thinking along the lines of as James Richards' next question. What's the minimum number, roughly, before they make an attempt? Clearly not 6 or 7, I think is our answer here, because if they were going to do it, I think they would have done it by now, instead of curling up in a bundle on the floor and having a quick snooze. My guess, James, and to all of you who are, I'm sure, wondering the same thing, is they probably need about 2 more. And it depends again on male versus female age. Some of the sub-adults won't be terribly helpful just because they're so much smaller than the adults. But 2 more females, and I think you'd have a, what would we call it, a marauding band of hyenas that might decide to make a play for that buffalo. I think at the moment the lionesses are a little bit equal to them. The one hyena, just to give you a sense of scale, what we're looking at, one hyena is between 60 to 90 kilograms, 180, 190 odd pounds, right up to about 210 pounds. A lioness, on the other hand, particularly a pregnant lioness in a bad mood, so we'll add 20 pounds on just for the pregnancy plus the mood. A lioness is probably about 150, those lionesses about 150 kilograms, over 300 pounds. There's a considerable weight difference, and as we mentioned earlier, conflict, actual physical conflict between the different predators is less common than we might think it is, because nothing out here wants to risk injury. So these hyenas are not going to make a charge, they're not going to charge forward unless they know that they have the absolute advantage of numbers, because what they want is intimidation factor. They do not want to have to fight it out. And as a result, we've got a bundle of hyena logs. No, what did we come down with? What do we call flat hyenas again? And we came up with so many wonderful ones, and now I can't remember one. We've got flat cats and log dogs, and we had one for flat hyenas, but I honestly cannot now remember one of them. Except I think there was one that was a hiatus of hyena, and I think that might have been mine, and it was really not the best one of the lot. Here comes another one. I don't know if this is, I don't think this is Riven, I think this is one of the others. Here we go. Coming to join the pile of hyenas. Wait for their chance. Whoopsie, watch the branch. I nearly tripped over. Oh, quick bite, because nothing says I love you more than a gentle nip to the hip bone. Looking for a companion and a nice place to go and lie down. Who have we got here? I'm starting to lose track. It's very tricky to identify each and every individual hyena. Hello. What have you got to say for yourself, you little mischief? Now they're lurking here because they know that buffalo carcass is not too far away. Greg, you were wondering if they can smell it. Yes, absolutely they can. Hyenas have an extraordinary sense of smell that, depending on wind condition, can extend over many, many miles. And at the moment they are sitting directly downwind of it, I think just tantalizing themselves with the scent wafting over them. That being said, they're not here just because they smelt it. They probably, initially, the one that we saw last night came to investigate because he smelt the carcass. They now know, absolutely. They've been doing little, what we would call reconnoitering, or sort of getting the lay of the land. So one of the individuals will go and have a sniff around, get quite close to the lionesses, check out how many there are, check out their odds, and make a calculation from there. Here we go, found a comfortable spot to lie down. And it is a calculation. Hyenas are very, very clever. And I've got some info in terms of our flat cats, log dogs, and flat hyena. Deborah, Armchair Traveller, tells me that it was flopped spots that we came up with for the flat hyena. Thank you very much, Deborah. And indeed reminding. There's some things you think you'll never forget, and yet somehow, with all of the extraordinary things that we see, conversations had months ago start to blur into one, or at least become a little bit indistinct. And I think flopped spots is exactly what we have here. Now they're playing the patience game here, and there's not much to be done except for have a nap while they wait. And Justin, you were wondering how many hours a day a hyena will sleep. Not as much as lions. Lions obviously known for their incredible sleeping abilities, much like Andrew had. Andrew was a cameraman of ours a couple of months ago. He had extraordinary sleeping abilities as well. Lions can sleep for up to 20 to 22 hours a day. It's usually a bit less than that, though. Hyena generally sleep during the day. There's no rule book to it, but you're probably looking at about 12 or so hours that they'll spend napping. But hyena are so, that's why I enjoy them, is because they're so inquisitive and so curious, and they're constantly up to something, so they don't actually spend nearly as much time asleep. The moms do, of course, around the den sites, and the cubs, whenever mom is gone, the cubs will be fast asleep in the den, and that can be for up to anywhere from 10 to up to 20 hours that mom is away scavenging, and the cubs just have to entertain themselves, and that will consist largely of sleeping. But for now, there's nothing that they can do really but have a quick snooze, or a long snooze I think it's going to be, and wait for the reinforcements to the rank to arrive. If indeed they ever do. They might, though. While our hyenas snooze away, we'll stick with them for a little bit longer. Let us find out where on earth James is.
Well, I've just turned back onto Djuma, everybody. We've given up on Arathusa. I didn't come across any more sign of shadow, except for some tracks that I think were probably from yesterday. So we gave up there. Now we're going to drive along this run road here, and you may see that my hands are a bit floppy. Can you see that, Brian?
Yeah.
Yes, that's because of my gloves, although they look very impressive, are not very impressive, and I have to ball my fists up over there for there to be any warmth. I can't actually use the fingers, so it's a bit useless. We're going to drive along this road and see if we don't spot the little cubbies. This is round about where Karula, we think, left her cubs, and then if we don't find them, we're going to go and look at the lions at the Djuma Dam, and thereafter I suspect we might try and see if we can see the hyena cubs. So that's the general plan, and as you all know, these plans very seldom work out the way you think they're going to. So let's see what happens. We might see little George and Charlotte sitting together on a marula tree enjoying the sun. That's where I'd be if I was a 5-month-old baby leopard. I'd find myself a horizontal bough on a day like this. Oh, I thought that was a baby leopard, but it's a Stembok. Let's see if we can see it, everybody. Bryan and I have been so successful this morning. We found Impala and one Nyala. There it is, Bryan. Can you believe it? Oh dear. Back? Oh no. It's gone. Anyway, there we go. Bryan and I found your Stembok, everybody. Hurrah. They are quite attractive animals, just a bit sad that they run away all the time. As soon as they realize they've been spotted, here is Karula's tracks. Just have a look on the road here. And let me get out of the car quickly. And she's crossed south, like I say. There's some water back there. Let me show you. Oh, and the little cubby tracks are here too. I need to unplug myself, Bryan, otherwise I'm going to break all my wires. Yes. So behold here. Here's Karula's tracks. And I'll just put my hand next to it. Can you still see okay, Bryan?
Hand on the other side. There we go.
Right?
Perfect.
So you can see about the size of my palm, basically the size of my palm. And then here are the cub tracks here. So they're about, I'd say half the size of Karula's, but they're already much bigger than a civet track. And they've gone wandering down here. You can imagine the two of them walking behind their mother, playing along. And then she has crossed over, and I suspect they are in this block somewhere, lurking about. We don't want to stress them out without their mum with them, though, so we'll probably leave them be. Except to say, you see, it gets horribly tempting now because there are tracks going straight in here. Straight down there. Anyway, I think we've done enough fossicking about today. We might just turn around and go up Shibamu Road as opposed to this road. I didn't realize these tracks were going to be here. Plug myself back in. But we're not going to spend too long around here. Let's go and, I think we should go and have a look at those lions. But before we do that, let's just take a slightly different route. Michael, nice one from you about what's going to happen if Karula and Shadow come across each other with their cubs. There'll probably be a little bit of hissing, a little bit of snarling, but otherwise it'll be a fairly peaceable meeting. Right, now apparently those two lions are in the state of having a romantic morning together, so we're going to hie our way in that direction. So Michael, what they'll do is they'll probably hiss at each other, get a little bit cross. I don't think there'll be any playing between the cubs because they are, as we know, solitary and they don't have a sort of much of a social structure. As I say that, I mean, of course, when they do eventually meet, they'll probably frolic about like, I don't know, like lion cubs. But we'll see. So I don't think that they would. I think the cubs would separate from each other and Karula and Shadow would hiss a bit and then they'd leave each other alone. But the last time we saw them meeting up, Jamie saw them meeting up and they were blowing spit bubbles at each other, of course, which is disgusting, especially for royalty. Alright, let's go back to Jamie and her hyenas. I'm going to go towards those lions because it sounds like they're mating.
Apparently this kill is attracting not just scavengers of the hyena kind, but also now 3 raptors that have joined in, waiting patiently for their chance to peck at the scraps. Oh, was that an incoming hyena? It was an incoming hyena. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we've still got 6. I suppose shared body warmth is the way forward. We've got a little triangle of hyena now. Not triangle, I don't know what one would call it. That's definitely, Karen's right, a huddle of hyena is what we have here. Thank you, Karen. Agreed. A huddle of hyena. It looks very warm in there. It's probably a bit smelly, but at least they're all cozy. Now we've watched them jostling around, and of course hyena are one of the most curious of all of our male species, or mammalian species that we see out here. And that is because the female is invariably larger than the male. Now Tanner, in Oklahoma, you were wondering why that may be. The truth is, nobody actually knows. So we know physiologically why that is the case. So the females have exceptionally high levels of testosterone and androgen, which makes them grow bigger and stronger than the males. Why have they evolved to be that way? Because they really do have the most curious social dynamics and also physiological responses to that, because their vaginal tract and their urinary tract are fused. So they give birth and urinate through the same passage. And it can actually be exceptionally dangerous, particularly for new mothers. So a really complicated arrangement that they have managed to evolve. There's one theory that the bigger the mother, it's called the big mother theory, you know, as imaginative as that may be. The bigger the mother, the more access to food she has, the better the milk she can provide. And that's borne out by the fact that hyena actually have the richest of all of the predators in terms of their milk production. They also lactate for a much, much longer time. So Karula's cubs are weaned at 3 months old. They're now totally dependent on mom's kills, eating meat. Hyena cubs will suckle for up to, in some recorded cases, up to 1.5 years that they will suckle their cubs. An interesting aspect to it, that's clearly connected to the way in which they evolved, but the truth is nobody really knows why spotted hyena are so unique in terms of the mammals out here. Very, very unusual. The bush is a very patriarchal place. The males are invariably larger, they're stronger, they have a tendency to sort of bully the females, if you could put it that way, just in terms of survival. We can't quite phrase it like that. Hyenas are just such an exception. They break the mold. Quite literally, they broke the mold. An interesting thing. And I think that the more we start to learn about hyena societies, I think we've barely scraped the surface in terms of research, and that's not to undermine the intensive years that many researchers, dedicated researchers, have put into researching hyenas. But I just think there's still so much that we have yet to discover about them. And isn't that awesome? That we live in a time where we're just going to keep learning more and more and more about the animals that we get to see. They, however, are not in any way plagued by such existential questions as to why their females are larger than their males. The biggest question in their mind at the moment is, are there going to be more members of the clan arriving, and will we get some food? Or will those greedy lions finish it all off? It's probably the most important factor of their day. I was hoping that we might see the new mother of the brand new little cubs that we've only just recently seen popping their heads out of the den. Her name is Gwen, and her cubs are probably not much older than 1.5 months, around there. I was hoping she might make an appearance to get some food, but I think for now she is a low-ranking female, so I think she's staying at the den site with her cubs. You know when a sneeze gets stuck? You really want to sneeze, but you can't, and it keeps sort of coming in waves, and you think you're going to sneeze, and then it doesn't happen. I'm stuck in one of those positions. Your eyes start to water. You're just desperately waiting for this sneeze to make an appearance. So be warned, everybody. It could come at any time. Just to let you know. Oh, come on. Aren't you meant to look into the light? You're meant to look at light to make yourself sneeze. Photosensitivity. It's not working. While we look at one of the females of the clan, Michael, you were wondering if another male joined this group, would they be able to put pressure on the lions, or would they need the females? Another couple of males would absolutely do the trick, I think. I mean, it's impossible to say exactly, because it's not really, you know, it's about numbers, but there's no set formula. I think another 3 males or so would definitely boost up their numbers. It doesn't have to be females at all. However, it does help to have the females because they are bigger, as we discussed earlier. They're also more aggressive. So they'll be the most likely ones to encourage the rest of the clan to, with a rallying cry, that whooping call, to actually storm forward and try to chase the lions away. So what we have here at the moment is almost a siege situation while they wait for reinforcements. But it doesn't have to be of the female variety. It can absolutely be the males as well. clan males, despite their subservient situation, play a very, very important role in the clan. They do a lot of the whooping, the territorial whooping, to announce their clan's territory. And they also play a big role in situations like this in terms of boosting numbers. Well, today has been a day filled with our apex predators, and it seems as though James has made his way to the lions around Djuma Dam. Let's go and have a look at what the female and the male are up to.
There he is, everybody, and I just want to show you this amazing sight that we've got. We spotted him, or I say we, Bryan spotted him. We're actually quite a long way from that magnificent beast, and Bryan will now show you how far away we are, and then we'll go a little bit closer. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful scene? I mean, bar the vehicles, of course, and that's not the vehicle's fault. I just think it's wonderful to be sitting so far away from a lion with him in such perfect view and beautifully backlit by the rising winter sun, which has this cold front, although it was very unpleasant this morning, has actually rendered the air extremely clear, and that's why the light is so pretty this morning. So let's go around the way and have a look-see. And of course, as I have many times said to you, that's what you've got to look out for if you're walking. You're going to be looking for exactly that sort of a view. So apparently these two have been, well, in the state of attempting some sort of conjugal pairing. But as one of the viewers pointed out, she appears to have a headache. Affirmative. Sorry, Kirsti, can you go with the name there? What was that, Bryan?
Hyenas socks.
Hyenas socks. That is a very strange Twitter handle. Hyenas socks. Oh, Hyenas fox. It's equally strange, but a wonderful Twitter handle. Thank you for that, Hyenas fox. You want to know, are there any popular misconceptions about lions and whether or not the relationship that the male and female lions have with their cubs? Hyenas fox, I suppose the popular misconception would be that male lions are actually part of the pride and that they take part in the raising of the youngsters. And they don't actually at all, in any shape, way or form. They're not part of the pride. The pride is females and their babies, and the males are separate from that. They form coalitions on their own, and they're not actually part of the pride. I think that beautiful lioness has spotted some nyala behind us. Isn't she lovely? That's really a very pleasant, very pretty shot indeed. Completely backlit, of course. And I think she has spotted some kind of lion, some prey item the other side there. Isn't that lovely? See, that's a beautiful shot. Isn't that nice, Bryan? The waving grass in front of them. Really stunning. Kathy, you want to know if this is the lone male that we saw here yesterday? Kathy, I don't know. If we go a bit closer, we can probably tell. He looks like he's quite blonde. The chap from yesterday was quite blonde. Oh, here we go. Yes, I would say it is the same one, Kathy. If you look at his tail, he's got that fairly sort of poor pom-pom on the back. And he's got that slight limp. Yeah, it's definitely him. Let's move quickly. Marvellous stuff. He's interested. She is clearly not. She's highly mobile. Is that a glove, Brian?
It is.
Oh, they're mating. They are mating. Her headache is over. I'm not sure that was consummated, to be honest. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't. So she may be just in the sort of early stages of estrus and not quite ready to mate yet. You see, she's kind of growling at him, and now he's a bit confused. Yeah, I don't think they consummated that. I think it was an attempt, but I don't think they actually managed. Because normally what she would do is then growl and flip around, and she absolutely didn't do that. Let's move a little bit closer. Ease our way in here. We are quite close now, so I'm going to move quite slowly and try not to make too much noise. It's not going to affect them at all, I don't think. Ooh, that's Amber Eyes. That's who that is, everyone. That is she of the amber eyes. That is a brilliant, brilliant shot, isn't it? Now don't lie down. Ooh. Yeah, no, this is quite close. This is unbelievable. They are so close to us now, everyone. They've lain down 4 feet behind us now. Well, we're going to have to move from here. Brian, hold on tight.
Right.
Shall we wait here? That's actually quite a nice shot. You tell me when you're ready. We'll go around the other side of them.
Yeah, let's go around.
They're very close, very close. You can see that. That was fantastic. They walked straight towards us. Now, Amber Eyes and I, of course, have a very fond relationship. Maybe she was just sort of saying hi. This light is going to be horrible. Hang on. Sorry, the shadows are a bit long, everyone. Now, viewers, you're all debating that this is Blondie and not Birmingham Boy number 3. I think that if you look at him now, in this light, you will see that I think he is number 3 from yesterday. I'm not sure. Look, I'm not great with this sort of thing, but he's got the same kind of mane that I saw yesterday. So that's who I think that is. She clearly is not that interested. As she's shown us, and as one of our viewers said, perhaps she does have a headache, but that's definitely Amber Eyes of the Nkahuma Pride, my favourite lioness. And for those who think that that isn't, that this might be Blondie, you can see his mane isn't quite as blonde as it looked when it was being backlit. You see that? And you can also maybe see that he had that limp. And that limp is quite characteristic, I think, of that pom-pom-tailed or poorly pom-pommed B-boy number 3. What did we call him yesterday, Brian? What did we call him? Poor pom-pom or something like that?
Something along those lines.
Scaffy pom-pom. Scaffy pom-pom, that's what it was. Skinny pom-pom, there we go. Thank you, Kirsten. I think skinny pom-pom, rather than B-boy 3, is a much better name. Good afternoon. What's your name? Yeah, my name is Amber. Ah, hello, Amber. My name is Skinny Pom-Pom. Inspirational. No wonder she's not keen on meeting. Now, ideally, of course, for the light and everything else, we want them to be lying precisely 180 degrees from the way that they are now. We get a wonderful picture of both of their faces in the shining sun. I'm not going to move from here, everybody, because we'll get between us and the vehicle behind us, at least in front of us. So let's just see what happens here. If Amber and Skinny Pom-Pom decide to consummate their morning meeting. And this wind is icy. So although it looks like it's warm and sunny out here, it is sunny, but warm it ain't. Were one to want a scarf, the mane of Skinny Pom-Pom, of course, would be a fantastic way to keep your head warm. I think that's also why she's accepting him lying so close by. Normally they don't. And in typical cat-like fashion, do you see how she lifted her head? She's watching the leaves go past her, and they've arrested her attention. Very nice. Oh, at a slightly odd angle here. Paige in Tennessee, you say, does this Birmingham have mange? No, he doesn't have mange. There is one of them that has mange. I think it's number 2, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be mistaken. He's okay. He doesn't have the same mange on his belly that the other one does. Oh no, he looks absolutely fine to me. He's in, apart from that limp that he's got, he's in very good condition. Brian, wouldn't you say this is the same chap we were with yesterday? And their manes have got so much fuller in the last year. You know, it's almost exactly a year since they arrived here and chased the Matimbas to the koppies where we saw them. The koppie today, you saw it in Londolozi. You saw how far away that was. And it's almost a year since the Matimba 2 males were tossed out of this area by these 2 or these 4 marauding Birminghams. And their manes have filled out a lot. They're still not the biggest lions. They're not nearly the size of those Matimbas. But they're obviously filled with courage. Gee whiz, Brian, just look up there quickly. Look at those vultures coming over here. These vultures have been blown in on the storm, I think. And there's a huge thermal above us. Now they're up. Look at that. They're up, Brian. There's action. Michael, you're interested in why it is that they have black spots on their noses as they get older. I don't know why. I'm not sure why it happens like that, but it most certainly is a reality that as they get older, black spots develop on their noses, and by the time they're 6 to 7 years old, their noses are completely black. Here we go. I don't think he's managing, to be honest. It's an astounding noise. There we go. There's definitely some kind of contact there. There we go. Success. So you saw her response this time around, completely different from the last time. The last time she just kind of lay there looking slightly disappointed. Now she's flipped over, and you saw she gets that very aggressive, flips around very aggressively, of course, because when he withdraws it is deeply painful, and last time clearly there was no pain. Marvellous. More cubs on the way, with any luck. Now, for those of you who have not watched cat mating before, this will go on for roughly 5 days, and they'll probably mate 3 times an hour or so for 5 days. Just let that sink in. 3 times an hour for 5 days. Diane, very nice question from you. You say, will he attack her if he doesn't receive her? No, he won't. He doesn't really have that option. And like with many of the animals out here, the kind of concept of, I guess you would call it rape, is almost impossible, because unless the female is absolutely willing, it's impossible for the male to mate. Elephant's a wonderful example of that. Unless the female is prepared to mate with him, he cannot mate with her, because she has to stand in a specific way that he cannot make her do. Now they're looking up at those vultures, everyone. That's what they're looking at. See them watching the sky? So he won't attack her, he'll just get more and more frustrated. And you know, if she's not ready to mate, she won't go into estrus, she won't give off the scent of estrus, and so he won't become kind of interested. So when she goes into estrus, it obviously brings out a whole suite of hormones in his body that start to course through his body, and unless those hormones are just not there if she's not in estrus. So it's not like a male lion will come across a female and think, yes, I think we should mate now. It doesn't work like that. He only gets that kind of instinct when she is ready to mate. And they're watching these vultures. And the vultures, I'm just looking now, they're right behind us, so we can't put the camera on them. But they found the thermal. That's why they were all flying towards that one place. There's a thermal rising above us, and that's why they went there. It's not that they were coming down onto a kill or something like that. Now, Justin, you've asked the question. I hoped you wouldn't, but I will answer it for you, of course. It's a little bit awkward. You say, why is it so painful for her when he withdraws? He's got what we've called a barbed penis. Now, I'm going to leave you to Google that, because you can actually get pictures of it. But basically what it is it's a penis, obviously, and it's got these sort of back-facing spikes on the back of it, which means that when he's not to put too fine a point on it, as he penetrates, it works perfectly fine. I mean, works sort of normally, but then as it withdraws, those spikes, which are recurved, kind of hurt her, and the reason for that is that it creates a contraction, and it makes her contract, and what that does is to create a situation where I think it helps her to ovulate, and I think it helps him, I think it helps the sperm to get up to where it needs to be. Look how close they are to those people. Oh, here we go. And it's almost completely unlike with leopards, where she will kind of stick her back end into his nose. She just kind of walks away, and that's normally what starts off the mating with lions. And if you watch him carefully, he'll try and trip her. He'll just sort of flip her back legs with his front legs. Let's drive on through here. No more. He wants to have a snooze. Say when, Brian. Is that alright? And you can notice, you can see here how very amber her eyes are, how very orange. I think they're oranger than amber, to be honest. So do we have any consensus from the viewers? Is this, are we happy to call this Birmingham Boy 3 or Skinny Pom Pom as opposed to Blondie? Because you can see his mane ain't so blonde when it is backlit. Okay, good. Alright, thank you viewers. I believe you are happy with Birmingham Boy number 3, but as Kirsten says, not sure if you're happy with the name Skinny Pom Pom. What do you think, Brian?
I like Skinny Pom Pom.
I think so. Especially when you look at the pom-pom on her tail, it's much more impressive than his. See her just gently, she's gently tickling him there with her pom-pom. Safari Dean, you said the next rangers meeting in this area, they should take a vote as to whether I should ever be allowed to name an animal again. Safari Dean, if I didn't know better, I'd say that you were casting aspersions on my naming abilities. I said, rude. George and Charlotte and Zara, brilliant names, all. Skinny pom-poms. Alright, let's go across to Jamie for an update. We're going to stay with these lions for a little bit longer and see what they do.
And a quick update for all of you from our side. We've left the hyenas for now. They didn't look like they were going to be stirring anytime soon. And I thought I'd just come through and check the den site on Galore shortcut. Unfortunately, I think the lure of the buffalo proved too much and nobody's home at the moment. But judging by the tracks, the number of tracks, the different sizes of the different tracks, I have a feeling that the whole clan has decided to move back to the Galore shortcut den. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to just wait and see. Perhaps this afternoon we'll pay them a quick visit. But for now, we're extending our search a little bit further afield. The sun has come out, and I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm seriously appreciating the raise in temperature that it has brought with it. I almost want to go and find somewhere to park and just bask in its lovely light. The one thing I've noticed on my rounds while I've been checking the northern boundary and the hyena den is there are lioness tracks absolutely everywhere. Going this way, going that way, going up and down. I'm trying to account for all of the lionesses. So Amber Eyes is mating with, I know you said with James, I mean mating with the male while James is there. The other two lionesses are on the buffalo kill. One has got cubs in Torchwood, so she's probably around there looking after them. We're missing one. She could, of course, be mating somewhere. The guides just haven't found her. I wonder if she's not hidden away somewhere in here. I'm trying to work out which one it could possibly be. I'm looking forward to the time when all of this has settled down a little bit and the Nkuhumas come back together when the cubs are old enough to move out and about with the rest of the pride. I am very much looking forward to seeing the Nkuhuma ladies reunited once again with a new supplement of little babies keeping them company. I think that would be wonderful. It is going to be wonderful. And of course, sorry, these lions have just been absolutely everywhere today. I can't show you those tracks at the moment for a very good reason that I can't explain to you. You'll just have to take my word for it. I'll look for a nicer track elsewhere. Sorry, we can't talk about the Nkuhumas without, of course, thinking of their young boy, Junior, the Nkuhuma male. Now, HK, you were wondering if there's any updates about him. So obviously the last update we had was that Junior has found a friend. In the form of either a Mangeni sub-adult male or one of the other young males. We don't know exactly where his buddy came from. We haven't yet worked it out. But we do know that he has a friend, which dramatically increases his chances of survival. HK, I'm afraid to say I haven't heard any further updates. Just want to show you these lion tracks for a brief moment. I can now. The light's much nicer. I'm going to try and jump out ever so quickly. I can't. My door is stuck. Ow. There we go. Nothing a little bit of a sort of force doesn't fix. This is, just judging by where we are, we're probably about half a mile or so away from where James is. I think this is most likely the lioness that James is with. Now I've put my shadow in the track. This is her back track here, and I know it's a lioness just by the size. So this is her back foot. There's just the hint of the 3 lobes in the back pad, and there her toes are telling us which direction she's going in. To me, apart from the size of the track, lionesses' tracks to me are a little bit neater and always a bit sharper than that of the male. The males are more rounded and there's a bit more space between their toes. Now, a lioness tracks are a bit more compact. If this is a male lion, my drawing stick is not ideal. If this were a male lion and this was his back track, you'd be looking at a track that's probably that much, ooh, that's a slight exaggeration, that much bigger than a lioness track. So it's almost, lions and lionesses is probably the easiest one to tell the difference between, just in terms of size. Male tracks are enormous. Even when the males are still young, when they're still around 2 years old, their feet are still much, much bigger than the females. I wonder where Junior will end up. Speaking about males and females, will be interesting. Of course, we were all very concerned about him in his initial stages of separation from the rest of the pride, particularly when he made a surprise return, which wasn't ideally timed. The lionesses had just had cubs, and I can't imagine they were terribly pleased to see him. Oh, no more do you have to look at the footprints of lions, for James has the real thing in the flesh.
No more do you have to look at the footprints. There we are, everybody. Nothing has changed, but mercifully these lions have not gone to sleep and put their heads down. So here they are, and they're just sitting, and I think he is waiting for her to make the next move, as it were. And with any luck, we too will be blessed with the sighting of them mating again. I've always felt slightly, well, I don't know, I felt slightly bad about watching animals mate. I don't know why we put such an enormous import on it. You know, we tend to consider it hugely I mean, I don't want to use the term entertaining, but we certainly have the impression that it's one of the most astounding things to see, and it is. But why is that the case? When for us as human beings, it's the most private of activities, and yet when animals get busy with it, we are fascinated by it, and we film it, and we, I don't know, we become really excited by it. It's one of the, you know, if you've got a mating pair of anything on the reserve, we'll make an effort to go and view them. And I've always found that slightly incongruous, given the private nature of our own attitudes to the activity. What do you think? Let me know if you like. Hashtag SafariLIVE. Questions at wildearth.tv. It is a Sunday morning. And it is a beautiful Sunday morning. There's a wind blowing, of course. You can see from the beautiful mane hair of this male lion. And the weather is beautifully clear now, of course, because this cold front has come through here. You can hear the wind blowing still, and these guys are smelling things on the wind. They're constantly looking up. Otherwise, I think they'd have gone to sleep by now. They're starting to warm up a bit in the sun. They may well go to sleep a little bit later, or she's certainly starting to look a little bit like she might want to go to sleep. And he will drop off. If she doesn't move from here, he'll nod off, I'm pretty sure. But I think she's coming into estrus. If she isn't in estrus, she's certainly coming into estrus. Oh, nice big yawn. And they're smelling things. See, they're both looked now. They've heard something maybe. There was a big herd of Nyala around here earlier. There are Impala around here. They are near one of the only bits of water, and that's at the Djuma Pan, which is just across the dam wall. You know, we drove across the dam wall. It's the only bit of water that there is around here. There, she's nodded off, and that will be his cue to nod off as well. Anna-Marie, you wondering about why lions you think don't seem to like waterbuck. Anna-Marie, I don't think that they dislike waterbuck. I think that they, it's a bit of a misconception that they don't eat waterbuck. Here we go. You see how he will move now? Just because she's thought about standing up. Ooh, very close by, you can see. Just over there, lions too. She doesn't seem that keen. Not sure we're gonna get round there. Oh, there, it's happening, everybody, it's happening. Sorry. Now you see, I don't think that consummated again. You could see that she didn't roll over. She didn't take a swat at him. Although she is rolling around a little bit now. That's generally indicative that there was a success. So maybe that was a semi-success. But certainly not like the second time we watched it. Interesting that she chose to run off there like that. I don't know why that should be the case. I've never seen that. One does love strychnos. Is that okay for you, Brian? Maybe we'll just stop here rather than create consternation in the strychnos bushes. I've never seen that before, you know. I've never seen the lioness get up and run, and then him run. Well, I mean, he will obviously run after her. But again, if she wasn't in estrus, if she wasn't giving off the pheromones that indicate she's ready to mate, he wouldn't bother with that, unless there was food in the offing. So there are only two reasons a male lion wants to be with the females. One is food, and the other is to mate. Otherwise, you seldom see them together in this area. Very often, you'll find, most often, unless there's food or mating going on, the males will be on their own, patrolling their territory, and the females will be on their own. There's something on the wind too, every time she lifts her head and looks around and sniffs towards the north, which is odd because that is certainly not where the rain is, where the wind is coming from. Amazing Sunday morning activities. You can see how white the light is now, because the sky is completely clear. And those clouds of the morning have blown off. And I think we're in for a chilly but clear day. It's very nice. Now Chitra, you're in India and you're wondering about whether the mane of the lion is thicker in summer or in winter. Chitra, no, it doesn't change. It just gets fuller and fuller the older they get. But it certainly doesn't get thinner during the summer months. And while it looks like a pretty good scarf to have around your face at this time of the year, I imagine in summer they must get very hot. Maybe it does thin slightly, but I don't think so. I can't think of a lion that I've seen during the summertime that I think, oh yeah, no, he's definitely he's got a much thinner mane. And also, their fur doesn't seem to look like it gets much longer. Certainly it does with the Impala and the waterbuck and the Nyala. They tend to get a bit fluffier during the winter months, but I don't notice an obvious difference with the cats like this. I don't really seem to see a difference between the length of the fur between now and in summer. And I mean, it gets very, very hot here in summer, but it doesn't get very cold. I mean, it's probably, even with the wind chill factor now, it's probably maybe 9 or 10 degrees Celsius. Which is not that cold, especially if you're in the sun and sheltered from the wind. So I think that's why they probably don't get thick fur. Up in Johannesburg it tends to be different, on the Highveld, where it gets much colder than this, much more consistently. Then the animals tend to put on a lot more hair during the winter months. And Justin, nice question from you about the male lion and his mane, and how you want to know how long it can get. Justin, a male lion's mane, it really depends on where the animal is from and what his genetics are. So if you Google a picture of a Barbary lion, for example, a Barbary lion has got hair almost all the way down his back, all the way down his front, to his underbelly. And so that's the lion that's got the biggest mane. Now that's, in theory, lions from the Atlas Mountains. I think much like with white lions, they've been kind of inbred in captivity, and that's probably why their manes are so full. They've been selectively bred for those very full manes. But yes, they did occur in the wild up in the Atlas Mountains of northern Africa. That was the Barbary lion. Out here, their manes get basically, they can get quite a lot longer than that. And I mean, the oldest lion I've seen around here was about 16, he was. And his hair was so long, it didn't cover much more of his body than it does on that lion that you're looking at now. But it got longer, and it lay down on his back, on his neck. So if you can see it now, you can see it basically stands up because it's not that long. But when it gets really long, it'll kind of fold on either side, and it actually looks like somebody's combed it into a parting. So that's the sort of lengths of mane that you get. And of course, a lion's mane is She looks like she's all just too exhausted by this. A lion's mane is coloured according to the amount of testosterone that he has in his body, and you can see his mane is starting to go black. And a very black-maned lion generally has got a greater proportion of testosterone in his body than a less black-maned lion. And of course Ginger and Hairy Belly, which were the two Matimba males, and whoever named them, I think, well, I mean, surely Skinny Pom-Pom's not much worse than that. Hairy Belly had a much, much darker mane than Ginger, and he seemed to do the bulk of the mating from what I could tell. I didn't spend a very long time with them out here, but certainly any mating that I saw with the Matimba males and a female was normally with Hairy Belly, because he had that very black mane. Now, Max Mum, nice question from you about, I mean, it's particularly pertinent to a coalition of 4 males. You say, what are the chances of another male taking over the mating? Max Mum, I'd say very small. It's very unlikely that it would happen that another male would come in here and sort of take over. But I don't think it's impossible. And certainly there is some evidence to suggest that lions do have multi-paternity, so a litter of lion cubs may have more than one father. And so, yeah, she might mate with another male. Normally what happens, though, that whoever gets in first will go the course, so he will stay with her until her estrus cycle is over. And interestingly, they tend not to fight over mating opportunities within a coalition. They can fight, but they tend not to. It's unusual for them to fight over females. It's very common for them to box each other senseless over food. But over females, they don't tend to worry that much. Well, that's not always the case, but it is quite often the case. Also, that wind is quite icy, isn't it, Brian? I've had to put a blanket on my legs again.
Some might say it's a brutal wind.
Some might describe it as brutal, yes. Felicity, you're in New Zealand. Tell us where in New Zealand next time. It'd be lovely to know whereabouts in New Zealand you're from. You say, how often will they hunt during the mating period? If they'd just eaten something, they wouldn't hunt at all. Excuse me. But excuse me, let me just get my composure back. There we are. But if they haven't eaten, these guys don't look very full, so they may well go hunting. And would they hunt together? Yes, they would. They'd hunt cooperatively together. Most likely to be something small that they managed to spot in the bush sort of walking past. Then they might go after it like a nyala or something like that, and they'd probably eat it quite quickly. But they wouldn't, if they were, let's say they just finished a buffalo together there, and you know they had big fat bellies, over the course of the 5 days they wouldn't necessarily need to eat at all. He'd be very hungry at the end of it though. Let's just move a little bit around the corner here. The wind is coming up again. Alright, we're going to wait with these lions and see if they mate again. While we do that, let's go back across to Jamie Patterson and find out where she's headed.
Jamie is at Buffelshoek Dam and mercifully moving forward. I have a horrible feeling. You know, when you push a clutch into a vehicle and you start the engine, it shouldn't jump forward when you do that. I have a horrible feeling that Wendy's clutch is about to stop working, which is a little bit of a concern, but nothing too terrible. I'm relatively certain we can fix that in a heartbeat. Hey, how optimistic was that? That was commendable optimism. I'm a little bit worried about changing gear, because I'm scared we might get stuck in neutral. Okay, should we do it? Should we do it? We're going to be brave. We're in first. Let's see if we can do second. No, we're good. Hey, we're okay. So what we're going to do is meander in the direction of home. We're not going to go home straight away. We seem to be working well. I'm just a little bit scared about turning off the vehicle and starting it up again. Uh-oh. Oh, Wendy. It's okay, Wendy. We'll go and have a look at her when we get her back to camp. Hopefully it's just a pipe that's leaking for some reason. Okay. Oh, the joys of vehicles. Our vehicles work very, very hard. They cover enormous distances twice a day, every day, over terrain that's not exactly your average suburban road. So you can imagine they take quite a lot of damage. And I think that Wendy's just decided that her clutch cable is getting a bit old and worn. The problem is, given Wendy's current age, she's an old lady, as are all of our little Land Rovers. They're stopping making the parts that you need to replace them, which means that when things like clutch cables go, we have to go and get them specially made. Luckily for us, Steph is near Hoedspruit, and it should be a relatively easy fix. Unless we see something extraordinary along this road, I don't think I'm going to stop the car. Just trying to gauge. I think we're okay. Ah, see, Howard, you have a fantastic question. You're one of our newer viewers. While we stop to... Oh, are we going to do it? Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to brave the stopping. See, Howard is wondering, as our newer viewer, how on earth we are live streaming this from the middle of the African bush. It's one of those incredible things that still boggles my mind, and unfortunately, see, Howard, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because my grasp of the way in which these things function is relatively limited. So what happens is Dave does some magic camera work, he's sitting on the back, and then some machinery does some work in the middle of the car, behind, sort of at the back where all the fans are, and I don't go because I am not technically minded. And that somehow bounces a signal up through a big antenna that sits on the back of our vehicle. While our buffalo, since our buffalo are hidden from view, perhaps, can we get a view of our antenna, Dave? There we go. Dave's going to give you a behind-the-scenes look. There you go. So that broadcasts it up towards towers in various places. They're our repeaters, and the repeater bounces it back to the final control, which then somehow does something magic, sends our picture flying into the sky, and it goes to a satellite, I believe, in London, which then bounces it back across the entire world. So there you go. That was the most technologically clued-up explanation of how on earth we broadcast from the middle of the African bush. I think it's incredible that people can watch what is happening right now with probably about I don't know what the delay is exactly, maybe about 2 seconds. But it's like watching a live sports game, except even better, it's a safari in the middle with all of these incredible animals happening right here and right now. And what's so cool about it is because it's live and it's immediate, you can ask questions about what's happening in front of you, which is probably the most magical part, because you can actually be on safari with us. And of course, because it's live, there's no second takes, there's no editing. We can't make anything up or twist things to suit a story that we've written. The animals write the story for us. They are the stars of the show. And we just try and do our best to either find them, bring their stories to you, tell you a little bit about them, and then hopefully be able to interpret what they're up to. There's no making things up here. Ready for this, everybody? Let's not do the jump forward. Okay, we're okay. I think maybe we just had a bit of an airlock. Perhaps that was it. Because the clutch seems to be functioning perfectly now. Okay. Wonderful. Well, since we don't have our buffalo to show you anymore, or indeed much else in the way of mammal life around Buffelshoek Dam, let's go back to the lions, who are showing signs of stirring.
They were showing signs of stirring, everybody, but the ears seemed to be over those stirrings, and now they've gone back to sleep. The male stood up, stretched, lay down, opened his eyes, and went back to sleep. Now, we've got a little bit of debate, apparently, over whether this is Skinny Pom Pom or it is Blondie. I tell you how we would be able to tell is if I had any pictures that I had from yesterday, but I think I took them all off my camera yesterday. But they will be at home, because you see those very obvious scars that he's got under his eye there. That would be very indicative. So I'll go and have a look when I get home and see whether those scars that we can see under his right eye are in fact there from yesterday or not. My instinct is that this is the same lion. I could be wrong, though. I just think because of the limp, the skinny pom-pom, and the sort of blackening mane on the top there, that he is most likely the male we saw yesterday. I don't know where she's come from, so I haven't seen her for a while, but the Nkahuma pride is in a state of real flux at the moment. And I can't wait to see the cubs from the one on Torchwood. I think she's moved from there, so she might be around Buffelshoek Dam. Now, Anna-Marie, you are agreeing with John Boy, I think, that having looked at pictures of yesterday's lion, you reckon that this is not number 3 and that it is probably number 1 or Blondie. I'm happy to go with whatever you guys think, because the only thing about this that I don't find congruous with yesterday is those scars under the eye. I don't remember seeing them. But that just might be me being unobservant. And it's not unusual for a male lion to have a limp. That does happen quite a lot. So they could very easily be injured. At the same time, remember we watched that chap yesterday, and he had a twitch. And it may have been a temporary twitch, but he certainly was twitching the left side of his jaw in much the same way that Hairy Belly does when we were viewing him. So maybe this is Blondie. He's going to have to get a new name fairly soon, though, because he ain't so blonde no more. A very nice question from Tammy in Seattle. You say, has Amber Eyes ever had cubs? Seems like she's been mating for a long time now and has never produced offspring. Tammy, I think that's a really good point, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't know if she's ever had cubs before. I really couldn't tell you. Yeah, who knows? And she does. I don't think this is the first time I've seen her mate either. So maybe there's an issue there, I don't know. But I haven't known her for long enough to know if she had cubs. And whether or not those 2 youngsters who were eventually killed, certainly one youngster that was killed by the Birmingham boys on their arrival, it was a sort of yearling, and whether that lioness, that young lioness, was at any stage or was born to Amber Eyes, I don't know. But now they are very flat cat. You see that, Bryan? Yes, flat cat. The flattest kind of cats. So I think we'll sit with them another 10 minutes or so, and then we might move on and see what else we can see. I might do one more pass past where those cubbies of the Great Queen might be. If she has killed, she'll come back and fetch them, and unfortunately she's gone south, so if she does kill, it's going to be to the south of the boundary, most probably, which is very distressing because we've had such a good run with those cubs. I think we've had them 4 or 5 days in a row. It's been really spectacular. They're having a nice little snooze now on the sun, but this wind is quite bitter. Very unusually bitter for this area. Brutal, yes, Brian. Brutal. Brutal, brutal wind. Yeah, I don't remember that scar from yesterday. Michael, a good question from you about whether the timing of the cubs, and you say, don't lionesses normally have cubs at the same time? And why aren't these ones doing the same thing? Michael, they don't always. They do sort of try and time it, but it's not unusual to find a pride with 3 or 4 different ages. I think it's more coincidence that it happens, that they have their cubs together, and that coincidence is brought about by the fact that when a male coalition takes over an area, what happens is that the females will come into estrus around about the same time. It's exactly what's happened here. Some of them will fall pregnant, some will not to start with. And if they do eventually fall pregnant, well, then they will have cubs together. Then normally those cubs, when they are raised, 2.5 years later, they'll go off, the females will come into estrus again, and the males will mate with them again. And so you can see that the timing, because of the male coalition takeovers, is almost always going to be fairly similar. But it's not timed like that, I don't think, for any other reason. It does help the pride because they do cross-suckle their cubs, but they certainly don't have to give birth at the same time. So I hope that makes sense. I think it's by virtue of the fact that when the males take over an area, the females will come into estrus at the same time. Now, of course, that may well be an evolutionary advantage. They may well do that because they want to have cubs at the same time. But I've seldom seen a pride with cubs all the same age. It's quite often there's a month or 2 gap between them. Hello, Heidi in Kempton Park. Kempton Park, everybody, is in Johannesburg. Nice to have you with us, Heidi. I bet if it's this windy and cold here, I can only imagine what it's like there. Probably crystalline clear, driving, biting wind, and you're definitely inside huddling, I bet. Heidi, you want to know, do they mate at night as well? Yes, absolutely they do. They'll mate all the time, except when they're sleeping, of course. And in this case, I think this snooze is going to last quite a long time. So we'll give them another 5 minutes and then we'll move on from here and see what else we can find for the last half hour. And while we're sitting here, just to remind you, it is of course Kirsten's birthday, but it's also Rebecca's birthday, if you can believe it. This is fantastic. We've got a question from China, which I've unfortunately missed. Go again with that, Kirsten. Look at the Impala there. And the question from Cheating in China is, are there lion whisperers on this safari? Brian, are you a lion whisperer?
No.
No. Cheating? No, we don't have lion whisperers at all on safari. We have trackers, and the trackers will go out on foot and they will follow the tracks of the lions. And sometimes we do the same thing and we follow the lions, and that's how we find them. But there are also lots of vehicles out. There's a beautiful Impala which the lions have failed to notice, and the Impala have failed to notice the lions as well. So cheating, there are lots of vehicles around, and so that's how we find the animals here. We don't whisper to them. I've met one woman who claims to be a big cat whisperer, and yeah, it's a very rare skill, I suppose. So we don't have any here. Brian, have you ever met a lion whisperer?
No, I've never even tried whispering to lions.
Well, you should try. Perhaps not right now.
No.
Yeah. Let's try it off air in case it has an adverse effect and they run away. It's lovely to hear from you, Cheating in China. Please keep talking to us and please keep watching. It's great to have you watching all the way from the Far East. Safari Dean, that's quite a nice question actually. It's about, I suppose it brings wider issues of African towns to bear. You say, how often are big animals found in Johannesburg, or do they find their way to Johannesburg? Well, other than Bryan and Brent Leo Smith, you know, big animals in terms of wild animals don't occur there anymore at all. It's a massive metropolitan area of over 5 or 6 million people, and so big animals, no, none. You might see a northern Pretoria, which is the capital north of Johannesburg. We have found a leopard before, which is quite interesting, and they still find leopard there sometimes, but that's because that's leopards that come out of the mountains and into the city sometimes, but that's very, very seldom. Highly unusual, and you'd be far more likely to find, I don't know, bears, I think, in towns around the United States than you would big wild animals in Johannesburg. It's a massive industrial sort of economic hub. That said, there are lots of little towns around Africa, and especially in places like Botswana. There's a town called Kasane on the boundary with Zimbabwe, and apparently it is extremely common to find elephants wandering down the main street. It's a little dusty town, though. It's not a city. But our cities are very much like the American cities, where it'd be highly, highly unusual, in fact almost impossible, to find a wild animal there. I'm just going to get on the radio quick and help somebody into the sighting. Station looking for sighting of lions at Gari Dam. They are static on the eastern side of the dam wall, just to the south of the junction with Central Road. You can see his nose starting to change colour. Oh, and he's now so bored he's going to turn the other way. Alright, we're going to leave this position, I think, and while we do that, let's head across to Jamie and get an update from her. We might pop back just at the very end of the drive, but let's go and see if we can't find an elephant or two around the corner.
I think James and I are sort of very much on the same page. I've also been looking for elephants. There are tracks everywhere, but they appear to be hiding for now. I have an update for you that's actually very, very exciting news, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Apparently, I was chatting to Taxon, and Aubrey found a very exciting set of tracks. Now, Aubrey and Taxon, of course, know this area like the back of their hands, which is also an expression I don't really get, because I don't know about you, but I haven't spent all that much time studying the back of my hands. But anyway, they know this area and they know the animals incredibly well. And Aubrey thinks that the Nkahuma lioness with the cubs that was on Torchwood has moved them into the drainage line system around Nyala Road North and Gwari Pan Road. Those of you who are a little bit more familiar with the geography of the area will know what I mean. For those of you who are not, that's good news, because we can drive there. And at that age, I did say that they're going to start moving about now. They must be close to 6 weeks old. She's going to be, bless you, Dave. She's going to be starting to introduce them to the rest of the pride and bringing them with her, rather than leaving them, whoa, behind. There's a tree in the road. That tree was not there when I last drove this road. Anyway, terribly exciting news. Somebody's sitting on their game drive mic, which is why I went suddenly slack-jawed there with a lack of concentration, because there's a conversation happening that is definitely not intentionally broadcast over the game drive comms. Somebody's sitting on their radio, which happens every now and again. We've all done it. But exciting stuff. Prospect of lion cubs is awesome. Now, Kathy, while we have a look at our Nyala, you would like to know... Oh, let's go forward a little bit. Where are you, little guys? Oh, hidden. Hidden away. Kathy's asked a behind-the-scenes question while we're talking about the Game Drive channel. She wants to know what happens at Rangers meeting. Every single Rangers meeting that I have ever been to, Kathy, one point of conversation is game drive comms and the etiquette thereof, trying not to clog up the radio waves with excessive chatter, especially for us because we've got several voices in our ear at one time that we can't afford to not listen to. So having people talk about cricket scores and such like, it's always a bit tricky to tune out. Then there's a conversation about off-roading. That always happens as well. Invariably somebody's driven over a tambuti tree somewhere. And it's just making sure that everybody's on the same page and connecting. A chance to air praise and grievances wherever necessary. Oh, lovely girl. So beautifully hidden behind the trees. They just look so gorgeous in this morning light. You know, looking at us. It's alright. We're not scary. Shame. They've also been struggling due to the wind, making everything more nervous. And then, Kathy, things like naming cubs, and who gets to name them, and what the decision may be. There is probably the best shot of an Inyala you will ever see. Beautiful. If you look really carefully, you can see one eye. She framed herself very nicely behind the tree. Mostly, Kathy, to be honest, what we talk about is the animals themselves. So we'll give updates on, because obviously everybody feels, we all know the individual leopards, lions, whatever else they may be. We talk about which elephant bulls are a little bit cheeky, which ones should be avoided, which ones are wonderful, what the leopards are doing, how they're doing. That, I think, is the predominant discussion that happens behind Rangers meetings. Behind closed doors. Now, Justin, on the subject of naming things, you'd like to know why Juma is called Juma. Now, in theory, Juma is the call of the lion. You can chat a little bit to James, perhaps ask him the same question, Justin, and see what his response to that is. I've heard other things about what Juma actually means, and it's somebody's told me, whether or not this is true, is that it actually is the contact call between a mother and her cubs. That very soft, low Juma. I like that idea. So it's either way it is related to lions, it is the call of the lion. And it's an interesting little aspect of the history of this area, that on Cheetah Plains there's a Juma Dam, because of course Cheetah Plains was owned by the original, or the owners of Juma, the now owners of Juma. So it is clearly a word that had a very special connotation for them all. Interestingly, I met up with somebody who grew up on Mala Mala, and his cousin or brother, I can't remember, I was chatting to both of them. He grew up on Cheetah Plains when it was still Juma, and this was before this whole section where we are driving around now was included in the whole Wasabi Sand. And they described how they used to walk through where we are now to go and get stuff from the shops at the township Dixie. Right, we're going to look for more mammal species. In the meantime, James has found one for you.
There's a Stembok, everybody. Now, we've parked a long way away, so if it's a little shaky, it's because every time I breathe, the car moves slightly on account of my vast mass. But we've stopped away from the Stembok by about, Bryan, what does your camera say? 50 meters?
Yeah, about 35.
You really think that's only 35 meters?
37.
37 meters away, plus minus is the focus, not sure I believe it. And they think that she thinks we can't see her because we're so far away, but she's watching us very carefully. Now, what's nice about this situation is that because she thinks we can't see her, she's going to stand still. See, she's chewing her cud, and we very seldom get to view them for any length of time, because when you spot them, they're quite close by, and then once they realize they've been seen, they run. And she's standing dead still, like a stone, hence Stembok, because that's their defense. trying not to be seen. Now this is not a nice day for a Stembok, simply because the wind is blowing so very strongly, which means those huge ears that she uses like satellite dishes to hear potential threats coming along are severely compromised by the rustling in the leaves. And while we find the rustling in the leaves quite appealing, the Stembok not so much. I believe you were being asked why Juma is called Juma. As far as I understand it, everybody, Juma is the sound, the Shangaan sound for a lion call. So if you think of a lion calling, it goes Jom, 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 and that's why it's called Juma. But I have heard another Shangaan word for lion roaring, and that's Vomba, Guvomba. And I think one of them is that soft call, the Jo, Jo, Jo. And the Vomba is probably the overriding roar that they make. You know when they go roar, Brian? You know when they do that?
Yes.
Roar! 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 Yeah, just like that. Brent likes to do his impression of a lion roar. That's mine. Roar!
Roar!
Roar! Roar!
Roar!
Roar! Roar! Roar! Ow. I'm sure they've crash cut to Jamie by now. We're driving up Hyena Road at the moment, and we're hoping to find an elephant because there were some called in here. So we might be very lucky. I can smell some elephants actually. That sweet honey leathered smell. Ooh. This is one of those great questions that I'm unable to answer. Robin, you say, why is it that elephants go into must while no other mammal goes into must or into a state like must? Robin, it's such an obvious question that I'm astounded I've never thought of it. And it's such a good question, and I don't know the answer. First of all, I don't think they are the only animals. I think that you will find there are various mammal species, not many, where the males go into some kind of heightened testosterone level and they go and they look for females to mate with. Why would they do that? Why would they go into must as opposed to just like most other mammals just mate with a female when she's ready to mate? I don't know. Robin, I'm going to say it's got something to do with their vast size and the fact that when they are, that to maintain perhaps, here we go, this is a wild guess, to maintain the levels of testosterone needed to keep them perhaps to make the amount of sperm and that they need to, perhaps it's energy inefficient for them to maintain those hormonal levels all the time. And perhaps also, it might be a little bit of a peacock's feather, a peacock's tail situation. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous when you think about a big mammal, but when a peacock's tail has got absolutely zero evolutionary advantage, but to help him mate. So it's an example of what we call sexual selection. And so the peacock with the biggest tail is the one that is going to mate. Or the most impressive tail is the one that's going to be selected most likely by a peahen. Now maybe elephants have been sexually selected for that very pungent smell and the massively increased testosterone levels, and maybe they come into them, it's inefficient for them to be in that state all the time, it's energetically massively expensive for them to be in that state all the time, so perhaps they come into that state periodically. And the more they display that, the more likely it is that they'll be selected by a female, but they can't maintain it all the time because it's too expensive. Does that give you some kind of an answer? I'll try and do a little bit of research into it, but I think it's a really great question, and that would be my guess. Because, I can't think of another mammal. I seem to recall hearing of other mammals that go into a similar state, but I can't actually recall seeing I've certainly never seen another mammal in some kind of heightened state like that. Great question. But, okay, so here's let's think about buffalo, for example. Buffalo, when they live in a herd and when they're around females, they have their gonads or their testicles get much larger, and they hang down below the, very impressively down below, underneath the body. And when they're not in a herd and when the chances of them breeding are not there anymore, then they tend to atrophy. Now, I suppose that might be considered something like a must, and it's not a permanent position apparently. So if a buffalo's testicles can atrophy and sort of go up towards the body, and then if it goes around females that are in estrus again, they will drop again. And in fact, here we go, my brain is starting to unlock all sorts of things here. If we look at male Impala, surely their rut must be considered something of a must, period, because they're not always ready to mate. And during their period, their rut, their testicles drop, their testosterone levels go up, their muscles get much bigger around the neck region, and as they prepare to mate. And that must be considered a kind of must period, because the rest of the year they're not in that same period. So maybe it's just that the elephants are non-seasonal breeders, and so they don't come into must at the same time. That's probably a better description of what's going on. There you are. There are a number of guesses. You can pick any of them as you like. I'm going to just stop here and let's have a listen, because apparently the effluents were around here. They may have headed towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is not too far from where we are now. But all I can hear is the rustling of the wind in the trees, as opposed to the breaking of branches. All right, we don't have very long left. I'm going to speed towards Buffelshoek Dam quickly. See if we don't see them there. It's mercifully starting to warm up a bit now. Let's go across to Jamie while we head to Buffelshoek Dam.
Oh, while James bounds off towards Buffelshoek Dam, I'm on my way back to our lionesses just to check in before the end of the sunrise safari, see whether there's been any changes or whether or not the hyena have moved any closer or have moved farther away, or if they're just sleeping still. Let's go and find out what's happening there. Gonna move relatively quickly, we're quite close, but I want to get there with a bit of time to spend with them before we finish off for the morning. And I think we might be really lucky, we might have them all to ourselves. I'm still really excited about the prospect of these cubs. I've seen a lot of articles recently as we go towards our meat-eating lions about people feeding their dogs and cats on a vegan diet. Now, Justin, you wanted to know whether I think a lion could survive on a vegan diet, and the answer is absolutely 100% not. They're obligate carnivores, which means they have to eat meat. They've had thousands of years of evolution telling them that this is what they are geared towards eating. Their digestive system works on that principle. Their teeth work in that way. There's no way on earth a lion would be able to lie down with the metaphorical lamb, so to speak. They have to eat meat. It is just the way of things. It'd be interesting though. I imagine that the vegan lion would be teased by all of his friends about his life choices. But no, there's no way on earth. There's no way that they would get the protein that they need, because their digestive systems they don't have either the ruminant system with the four-chambered stomach, nor do they have the bacteria that the hindgut fermenters like zebra do. And those would play a crucial role in providing those animals with the nutrients that they need. We don't really have huge protein-rich legumes, which a lion could munch into. Look, sometimes lions eat grass, sometimes they eat leaves. That's only really when they have an upset stomach, though. Okay. Not a silly question at all from Joey in Australia. Joey wanted to know whether lion cubs ever catch birds or lizards to eat. It's not a silly question. Perhaps less so than leopard cubs might, because leopard cubs start practicing their hunting skills a little bit earlier than lion cubs do. But no, lion cubs definitely practice. They play hunt. They're not as good as it as leopard cubs are, because they're social predators. They're social. Oh, hello. This buffalo carcass has attracted scavengers. A hooded vulture takes to the sky for now, and he's going to settle and wait for his opportunity to pick at the scraps. Looking beautiful, I think, in the morning sun, despite their reputation for being rather ugly creatures. So Joey, those hunting skills that baby cats practice, baby cubs, baby kittens, whatever they may be, are essential for their survival, as is the playing that they do with each other. So that the play with their siblings and with their cousins builds up the coordination and the strength that they're going to need at a later stage. They're just practicing the skills they'll need to be big, fearsome hunters like our lionesses that we're about to have a look at. Both of whom have, I think for now, sated their appetites and have settled down for a time spent resting in the shade. Hey girls, it's okay. All right. Here we go. Panting away. We spoke this morning about the fact that their digestive process produces an enormous amount of heat. Their carnivorous digestive process. And that in turn makes them hot, even on a winter's day like today, where the wind carries with it, despite the warmth of the sun, the wind certainly carries a chill. But for them, I think at this point, they're uncomfortably warm, which is why they are panting, as they always do with full bellies. A fantastic observation while we sit and watch our lions on a Sunday morning that has been very much lion-filled, I would say. Robert's been looking closely at our lions and was wondering, why do lionesses, or well, why do lions in general have white eyeliner? And that's a brilliant observation, Robert, and there's a very, very good reason for it. It's because they're nocturnal. So what that white does, in addition to the very, very refined tapetum lucidum, the reflective layer at the back of the eye, what that does is that enhances ambient light. So it reflects back, catches any light that might be hitting the eye at an odd angle, and it bounces it back towards the retina itself. So all it does is it is a way of helping to increase the lion's night vision. And they can see as well as we can during the day at night. Not in color, but perfectly crystally clear. And that's because they are nocturnal creatures, because they get so hot is one of the big reasons why lions are evolved to be nocturnal. It also means during their time of evolution that it reduced the level of competition that they would have come into with the other apex predator that they evolved with, and that of course is human beings. Now, Robert, the opposite is the face of a cheetah. And those of you will be familiar with the idea of the cheetah's tear stains, the dark stripes that run from the corner of the eye down to the nose. And that's because, in complete contrast to the lions, cheetah are diurnal, and in fact do most of their hunting in the morning or in the afternoon when the sun is quite low in the sky. So that reduces glare, like sportsmen or women with those dark stripes that they paint under their cheeks. The cheetah stripe or the cheetah tear tracks do exactly the same thing. They just help to reduce the amount of sunlight hitting the eye. while our lions snooze away, I believe that Mr. Henry would like an opportunity to say farewell to all. Let us head across to him.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Obviously that wasn't my goodbye greeting. That would be very rude indeed. And I'd be in a lot of trouble if I said that as my goodbye. I'm going to just go quickly past where the mating lions are. If there's any action there, then you'll come back to me, I think. But otherwise, it's been a lovely drive this morning. Very cold, lovely scenery, lovely impalas we had. And so I must just thank you all for your questions and comments. It's been a real joy to have you with us. Thank you, Bryan, for your efforts. And now, of course, we will sing happy birthday to Rebecca and Kirsten. Would you like to lay down a beat?
Ooh, I would. Are you
Okay,
ready?
yes, here we go. Happy birthday to the redhead, dangerous redhead. Happy birthday to the crazy Rebecca, she is traveling around the country today, yes. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for the song, but I think that it probably will. I don't care because it's birthday today, it's a Sunday birthday, oh yes. There's an elephant just up ahead right now, I can see it standing on the side of the road. We're gonna stop and have a little look at him, and then we're gonna go home and have birthday eggs Benedict. That's embarrassing. Okay, well there are some elephants, and we'll let Kirsten. We'll just have a quick look at the elephants, everybody. What on your job, everyone? I just want to check. No, it's not. I thought maybe it was that herd that had the bull looking after them that we saw yesterday. But it isn't. It's a small herd of 5. Let's just give them a little bit of space. They're a little bit nervous, especially with the wind. Beautiful. Righty, there it is. Okay, everyone, thanks very much. We'll see you later at 3 o'clock. I'm probably going to be on foot, I hope, this afternoon. Until then, stay safe and happy where you are, and wish happy birthday to Rebecca and Kirsten. And bye-bye.
I hear that you've been treated to a world-class James Hendry song. I'm not going to sing Happy Birthday, and that's because I actually quite like Rebecca and Kirsti. I'm quite fond of them, and I don't really want to subject them or you to what would ultimately be a most horrifying experience. Well, I think our lions have decided what they're going to be doing for the day. A lazy Sunday lies ahead. Plenty of time resting in the shade, and every now and again lifting their head up to make sure that the hyenas remember that they are there and that they are in fact paying attention. I don't think we're going to see any dramatic predator interaction while we're away. I think that the hyenas are just going to wait patiently for their opportunity to come and pick up the scraps of this lion kill. And hopefully, in fact I'm going to say definitely, our lionesses will be around for us this afternoon in a couple of hours for the sunset safari, probably in exactly the same position they're in now. Thank you to Dave for his fantastic camera work as always, and thank you to all of you across the world watching and joining us in asking questions and passing your comments. Hope you have a fantastic day until we see you again in a few short hours. Most importantly, thank you to the lovely ladies in Final Control, and happy birthday to Kirsti. Bye everyone, we'll see you later.